Welcome to Charts Today. My name is David Linton, and today's edition for Monday, the 9th of October, comes to you from Indonesia. I'm still here. I was at the IFTA conference last week announcing these new price targets, and I'm going to be using these in Charts Today now from here on. So we start by looking at the dollar index. We see on the short-term 60-minute chart, we've got that marked here short-term, we've got this downside target. We had gyrations in the dollar on Friday with those non-farm payroll numbers, which were much bigger than expected, and the market has really gyrated on that data. So, and that's had an effect on the bond markets as well, which we'll look at. That means that we are bearish below the cloud on the 60-minute chart on the dollar, and that means that the euro has got this little upside target. We're still bearish medium term on the daily, but we have got this short-term upside target. So really quite interesting. The yen, a good lead indicator for the dollar. This 150 level is really critical. We've got a couple of targets here, one downside, one upside, could go either way. Currently, this little upside target to 150 is in train. We see this 150 as a real resistance level for the yen, where we see Bank of Japan intervention really at this level, but it'll be very interesting to see whether that can break higher. Sterling is actually a little bit weaker this morning. Remembering I'm in the small hours of the European markets, I'm actually in the morning in Asia, so we're seeing here again, sterling has got this upside target on the short-term chart for the week, so really pointing higher for the week, although on the medium-term chart we do have this downside below the cloud, so that's really quite key as well. Taking a look at the Nasdaq, because the markets took those payrolls in their stride on Friday, and we did see a little bit of a jump there. We've got these short-term upside targets. We've got an unactivated target, which is why it's orange. If we see that activated with a move below, say, 14,500, then that gives us a downside target below 13,000. So that's really what we've got to watch. We are below the cloud on the price. We have actually bounced on the cloud on the lagging line. So really quite key there. We have got this little upside. So we are seeing a relief rally on the short-term chart. If we look at the S&P Future, we see here a different story. The downside target on the daily is activated, lagging line below the cloud. We do have an upside target here, not yet activated. We need to move above 4360 probably, and that would activate this target much higher to 4,550. But we've got to see a move higher to do that. At the moment, this is the daily target that's in train. Looking at the FTSE Future, we see here really clear downside targets on the daily. Notice how this target was given. It took a little bit longer to get there. This was given back here in September. It took a little bit longer to get there. We do have a little upside target, but we are still below the cloud on the lagging line, so not looking great. Looking at the DAX in Germany, on Friday's close, we were strong on those on the US market move, and we do have a little upside target here, but again, we would activate a downside target if we make new lows there, and the downside target is in train currently on the DAX, so really quite interesting seeing that there. Taking a look at the Japanese market, again, just waiting to see whether we activate this downside target here. These are in orange. They're not yet activated. If they get activated with a move below there, then they go to strong red. So that's quite key. This was the green target that was given. This was given back in May, given at 18,600. It was given to 22,600, but we only got to 22,000. I'd say that target has been met effectively, and so we're now really watching for these new targets. Just watch for new lows there. We are bearish below the cloud, of course, there on the 60-minute, and you can bet your bottom yen that most Japanese investors are looking at the clouds. So taking a look at some of the other markets, if we look at the Chinese market, really, there was a bit of a reprieve for Evergrande last week, but then really the reality is we've got downside targets waiting for this new downside target to activate. This target is in train at the moment. We do have a little upside target. We'd have to move higher to activate that. So quite an interesting picture there as well. And if we look at the Sensex in India, still looking very bullish on the medium and long-term charts. Remember, I can look at these long-term charts. This is the weekly chart. Upside target there, some 20% higher. And here, again, really big targets, especially if we make new highs. So two targets really pointing higher there. The Aussie market, we're seeing here a move lower. I'm in Oz next week, and be very interesting. I'm hoping to speak to the Professional Technical Analysts Association there, and it'll be very interesting to see how some of the Aussie stocks are performing. We'll be looking at that, but really quite key. We've got these downside targets not looking good at all. We'll look at the energy mix in a minute, but just taking a look at some of the commodities, looking at sugar, really quite an interesting picture here for sugar. We've got these upside targets on the daily chart, but a new downside target has been activated, some short-term upside targets as well, and move back above the clouds. So sugar's looking better than many other charts. And if we look at wheat, quite interesting here as well. We've got really clear downside targets on the daily, although we do have this upside relief rally on the 60-minute chart. So this is putting the time frames into context. We've got a downside picture that's really clear, but we have got a little bit of a relief rally. And taking a look at corn, again, another chart that's really quite interesting. Upside targets on the short term, but really clear train tracks pointing lower on the daily. So really, it would be a brave trader who would take these trades on corn with this picture on the daily chart. Looking at gold now, gold's up nearly 1% this morning. We have moved back above the cloud. We are short of short-term targets, and we do have these downside targets, so it's still not clear with gold. And of course, if we look at the long-term chart with gold, we've got to make new highs to activate this big upside target. This one has been activated, some 40% higher to 2,500, but we really want to see gold making new highs to feel confident about that. Certainly getting back above 2,000. Looking at silver, up 1.2% this morning. Big upside target there, but these little downside targets are in train, and we've got this other downside target here. We have moved above the cloud, so it is a bit of a mixed picture. The targets don't always align, so we're seeing the buying thrusts in different directions, giving upside and downside targets. But again, it'd be pretty brave trader whilst we're below the cloud on the daily. Even though we have just moved above on the 60-minute, these targets are still in train. Taking a look at platinum, it's quite interesting as well. We're seeing really clear downside targets here. We're waiting for an upside target to be activated, but the picture is pretty clearly downside. And palladium, again, these downside targets were given a long time ago and met, so they were given way back here. We see they're all being given and met. You just cannot ignore the targets. It's just from the thrusts. Taking a look at US 10-year yields, of course, this has been a big story of late. No big surprises here. This 4.79 target was given back in August. That's been given and met now, and that's where we've got to. If you want to know where yields are going, you've got to look to the short-term charts here. We've got really quite clear. And if we activate this upside target, there's a new target to 5.15%. And, of course, on the long-term weekly chart, which is looking very bullish with this triangle breakout, we have got a target now to 10%. So really hard to believe, but that's what the targets say. Taking a look at Apple, Apple did recover some ground on Friday, but we still do have these two downside targets in place. We've deactivated the target, effectively moving back above the activation level on these downside targets. Notice how this target was met. That was given back at the beginning of the year, but we still do have these downside targets battling each other. So it'll be a very interesting week in tech, and we are coming into earnings as well. Now, a quick look at some of the energy mix. If we look at Brent Crude, seeing a little bit of a bounce in Brent this morning, waiting to activate this big upside target on the daily. We've pulled right back to the cloud. We still do have these downside targets that were given and nearly met, and we really need to see it crossing the cloud. We have got this move higher, but that needs to pull back for us to get a target. Taking a look at US nat gas, this one's been an interesting one as well. Good upside targets there on the daily, really quite clear there. So that's just really one to watch there as well. So nat gas certainly looking better, and we're seeing here on the 60-minute chart again really pushing quite a bit higher. Looking at carbon just quickly, we're seeing here upside targets, but downside, a mixed picture here with carbon. The daily charts, these are the targets that are in train. got a mixed picture waiting, and of course use the 1 minute charts for looking for short term. And we're seeing here on TTF, we do have on the daily some quite good upside targets, but on the 60 minute we're still below the cloud, so that's going to be quite key. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. Bye for now.